Welcome to 5 to 10 in the D. You know, the result of COVID has placed many people out of work, and I thought it would be worthwhile in upcoming episodes of 5 to 10 to speak with people who have endured, they've persevered, and overcome joblessness. Some by starting a new business, and in some cases, they've even transitioned to a new career. Well, in this episode, I had the pleasure to speak with Rex Roy, a Detroit advertising veteran who used his creative skills to solve a problem. And that problem is, how do you get your resume to stand out among the hundreds, if not thousands, employers are receiving? Well, Rex created a tool and a new business called My Career Snapshot that I believe you will find really useful. In this interview, Rex shares a little bit about his advertising executive career and the inspiration behind My Career Snapshot. Here is my interview with Rex Roy. Rex Roy, thank you. Thanks for being on 5 to 10 in the D.
Thank you so much for having me.
The first advertising agency I ever called on was Ross Roy. I don't know. Is there a connection with Rex Roy? Is it just a coincidence?
A little. Although there are a lot of Ross Roy was Canadian. He was actually born in Kingston, Ontario. So there are a lot of Roys in the area. You know, you go through the Windsor phone book and it's like, a quarter inch of the Windsor phone book is Roy's. But Ross actually happens to be my dad. So there is a connection there. And well before you ever called on them, I did work there. I worked there as a kid. I started work there when I was 14, but the last year I worked there was
that legal back then?
It was. That was actually the first year I could take a paycheck.
Okay.
Yeah. And I worked there till I was 19, but I didn't work there after that.
Yeah. Wow. Did you go to college?
I did go to college. Yep. I went to the University of Michigan.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, because you probably, you got on the job experience and training very early on, probably more than what college would have taught you. Maybe. I don't know.
My dad graduated from high school and he did not go to college. And he was happy that I was going, but he did audibly laugh at my face and guffaw when I asked him whether he thought I should get a master's degree. He said, "Nah, don't bother." But I'll tell you, compared to the education I got at U of M, which was certainly a good education,
sure.
The education I got from the people at Ross Roy Incorporated was more important than any day I ever spent in school.
I bet.
Any class, any semester, anything. There are people there that certainly taught me how to be a responsible adult. People taught me about photography. Ross Roy had a great photography studio. They even had their own stage. And I learned how to shoot from pro shooters at Ross Roy. I learned art direction from art directors at Ross Roy. I mean, talented, award-winning art directors. The legendary Bob Steiger, Emilio Rodriguez. I mean, these are fine craftsmen, artists.
Great people. And you guys were in downtown Detroit at that time, right?
2751 East Jefferson.
Yeah.
So right across for people now, probably the landmark they would recognize as the Garden Court Apartments.
Wow. Yeah.
And so right across the street from Garden Court, and it was a terrific place to work. The folks were great. Primarily, I worked on Chrysler just because other teenagers maybe would memorize baseball stats or they followed football or something like that. I was a car guy. I can still tell you the bore and stroke of a 440 V8 Chrysler. And I started in the visual arts department at 14. I quickly moved into product information just because I was such a gearhead. And I had a real job when I was 16 years old. And I would compile automotive data on vehicles, and I do product comparisons. And as a matter of fact, the guy that ran the department just retired out of the GM historical collection. His name is Jim Vico, fantastic man. And we remained in touch all these years. Gosh, been 40 years.
You've been through your ups and downs in your career. You've been terminated before. I have been too. And there used to be a time, I think like 10, 15 years ago, where that was kind of shameful, but it's kind of the norm now. And people, it's nothing to be ashamed of anymore, because it happens. It's the world we're living in. But some people have a really difficult time with it. But you seem to have really found an ability to endure and persevere and be resilient. What has given you that strength?
Boy, that's a good question. Yeah, I think it's just the fact that once it's happened to you, um, you can do it again. Um, Also, I think I came into my first layoff after I had already worked for myself. Back in the very early 90s, a hugely ironic thing happened. I was working for the ad agency that was doing work for American Motors. And
Yeah.
when Chrysler bought American Motors, because of a contract that my father negotiated with Lee Iacocca, um, Ross Roy Incorporated was entitled to all sales and service materials for Chrysler Corporation. And so the projects that I was working on at the time for Campbell Methuen Estey were shifted contractually over to Ross Roy Incorporated. And I went, what? That's pretty funny. You know, the son of Ross Roy is now looking for work because of a contract that his dad himself signed and thought was a
Yeah.
good idea. And of course, for Ross Roy Incorporated, it was a great idea. It was a brilliant move, and it helped the company, stay in business and profitable for years. But when that business went away from Campbell Methuen Estey, and I was doing all the sales training and I was doing a lot of work on catalogs, I thought, this type of work I can do on my own. And I started my own agency, thinking it was just going to be me. And within the course of a couple of years, I had, 4 employees and a couple of contractors. And by the end of the 90s, I had 12, 13 contractors, 4 full-time employees. We were billing close to $1 million a year. And it was a great gig. Um, then Darcy Advertising offered me an opportunity to start an integrated marketing services group with an account guy named Art Pepin, who I incidentally had known when I was a kid at Ross Roy.
Okay.
And we started this great team, and it ran really well for 4 years. Change of leadership at the agency. They lost Cadillac. Art and I fell out of favor, me much more than Art, and I got laid off.
Hmm.
Because I had been on my own before, it was like, man, I really don't want to start over again, but I guess I better start over again. Only this time it was 2005. And those of us in Detroit remember what the economy was already
Yep.
doing in Detroit in
Yeah.
2005.
Yeah.
Al, nobody wanted a senior vice president and a group creative director, so I had to reinvent myself, and I started doing automotive journalism. Thanks to a local guy named Brad Fox. He
Okay.
put me in touch with somebody at AOL, which at that point was, I mean, they were the 800-pound gorilla.
Yep.
Everybody remembers getting those AOL discs in the mail.
Yeah. Just
Remember?
set up your modem or your yeah.
Yeah, set up your modem. Boom.
Yeah.
Beep, beep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You got mail.
you got mail. There you go. And anyhow, thanks to a connection that Brad made for me, I started writing for AOL and then Edmunds and many others. I ended up writing over the course of 8 years for almost 40 different publications. Had 500 bylines. But then the bottom fell out of that market because of citizen journalism, user generated content. The internet, the business of the internet couldn't figure out how to pay for content or good content. And anyhow, so that's what ended up pushing me over toward Jack Morton. But the resilience in my current situation is because I've done it before. I know that I can do this again. And if anybody else is in this situation, chances are you can too. I'm not that special. I have a skill. I'm a writer. I'm a producer. People have whatever skills that they do, and you can do it. You can find other work, or you can find project work, and you can do it.
We're in something in our generation we've never seen before with COVID and these lockdowns. A lot of people are out of work. I can't even tell you how many friends I have in our industry, in any industry, who are struggling right now. They're out of work. You have created something that we want to talk about, and I think bringing your visual expertise to the forefront in my career snapshot. Do
Yeah,
you want to share a little bit about that and the inspiration behind that?
sure, sure. Well, the inspiration was desperation. I mean, honestly, in April, while I was still working at Jack Morton, Jack Morton hadn't done any big layoffs or anything at that point. But I'm looking around going, man, this isn't good. Jack Morton is a fine, fine company. And a lot of talented people were there, and the ones that are still there are very talented. Um, but I'm looking around going, it's an event marketing company. We do events. Nothing is happening. No business meetings, no races, no concerts. That's where Jack Morton activated.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, man, this is not going to go well. So I brushed up my resume and I looked at my resume and went, yawn. I mean, words on a page. Who the heck is going to read that? I mean, if they read it,
Well, no
there's
one
good
is
information.
reading and a computer's looking at it first in a lot of cases, right?
Yeah, yep, the applicant tracking systems. And
Yeah.
it's like, it's just not a good situation. I saw coming. It was ugly. Looked
Yeah.
really worrisome. And I went, well, what can I do differently? What can I do that will slow somebody down to get them to look at my resume? What can I create as a conversation starter? So I started looking at my metrics, just because that's what I would do for any one of my clients. One of my clients at Jack Morton was GM Motorsports. And so every year I would do a year end video for them that would tally the wins that the different GM teams had. I started thinking, well, those metrics always impressed people, championships and races won, that kind of stuff. And so I used that and I applied that to myself. And I thought about, how many commercials have I produced for TV? How many radio scripts have I written? How many vehicles have I launched? How many photographs did I have published in the 500 articles that I did? How many publications did I write for? And I just went through and I started writing a list. And I literally, because I was drinking coffee at the time down at my desk and I had a paper towel, I literally started writing it on a paper towel. And then I made a Word document and I thought about how I could illustrate this. And so I contacted a colleague who was a designer and animator. And I asked her if she could work with me on creating a single graphic that would be kind of a path through my metrics. And I gave it an automotive theme, and that's what we created. And I thought, well, this is a snapshot of my career. And that's where the name came from. I put it on LinkedIn because I use LinkedIn pretty heavily.
Yep.
And my network just blew up. I don't have a huge network. I've got about 1,700 people in it. And it was, Rex, you've got to commercialize this. This is great. We've never seen anything like it. You got to make this work.
Yeah.
And I know what I paid my art director colleague to do this. And it's like, nobody's going to pay that. That's because it was stupid money. And I thought about what a good price point would be. Then everybody got laid off at Jack Morton.
Mm.
And designer friends of mine were out of work, along with, account people and production people. And so I called one of my designer friends who worked at Jack. His name is Nick Janesco, terrific designer. And I said, Nick, can we take this and simplify it? And we had an idea that we talked about, and Nick just knocked it out of the park. And that's the current design that we have. And it's affordable. People can buy it now for like $125. And you get this killer graphic. We make them horizontal. We make them portrait. You can have, 10 metrics or a dozen. We've got live links in there because it's a vector-based PDF, so you can have live links. So
Wow.
somebody clicks on your email address, boom, it opens up the email. They click on your profile, it takes them right to LinkedIn, or in my case, it goes to my portfolio website. And just in the last week, Nick and I have figured out how to have a full suite of social links in there. So if you're on Instagram or Pinterest or Facebook, whatever, we can go out to all of them now. And if somebody wants their portrait in there, we can do that too. So clients have asked us to do certain creative things, and the product has evolved a lot even since our launch in August. I mean, it's just December and the product's already gotten much better thanks to our customers. And what I have heard from people, from customers, is that the Career Snapshot is a great conversation starter.
Yeah.
They send it out to people at companies where they want to work, people that they believe could be decision makers, and it starts a conversation just because the piece itself is so arresting. It's like, what the heck is this? Oh, this is cool. And it really gets things rolling for people. And while I haven't had somebody come back to me yet and say, I got the job. Now, mind you, I haven't asked
Sure.
all of the people,
Yeah.
but for the people that I have kept in contact with, most of them have been creatives. And while nobody's landed a full-time job, they have said that it's been very helpful getting the door open at places for freelance work and getting project work. So it definitely has helped with the project work. And for myself, that's also for sure a benefit. I've been using it with clients that I've been earning on Upwork, and I include the Career Snapshot with every proposal I send in, and it makes a big difference.
When people go to, how can they find you, first of all?
It's really easy. It's called mycareersnapshot.com. So
Easy.
just www.mycareersnapshot.com.
One thing I've always I struggled with is, especially just writing my own resume and updating it, but to come up with, I'm my own worst enemy sometimes. I can't think of like my accomplishments. Do you kind of help guide people through that a little bit?
It's a really simple process. So after they make the purchase, they receive a receipt, and in the receipt there is a link, and it's a narrative. So we say thanks, and let's start the process. Follow this Google link, and the link takes them to a Google form, and we just walk them through 10 or 12 questions that help them to identify their own metrics. Now, I've had a couple of clients uh, just do a really lousy job filling those things in. It was like, I don't know what to put in. And this one guy literally cut and pasted sentences from his resume that didn't have any metrics in them at all.
Okay.
So I looked at that and I sent him a note back, and I said, we need to work on these metrics. And I looked at his resume. I found him. I looked at his profile on LinkedIn, and I suggested things for him. And I said, look at things this way. And I can't remember what business he was in. He might have been in real estate. So I took him through looking at what I could come up with of the metrics of real estate. And he took that, revised it. I tightened up his captions a bit for him, and boom, we created a great document for him. And he's using that in his real estate business.
Oh, that's awesome.
One of the biggest motivators behind, the snapshot was that I truly hate being out of work. I mean, even though I know I can do it, even though I know that, I'm going to get through this, but it is awful being out of work. I mean, because it was just, you just went through it. And it's like, it's awful. I mean, it screws with your confidence. It's just, it's a terrible thing. And, by commercializing, the snapshot, I genuinely hope that this is a tool people can use. And I genuinely hope that it's something that um, can make lives better. And if it's the holiday season. If you know somebody that's out of work, please tell them about this, because this is a tool that I've had so many recruiters tell me that this thing is valuable. I've had hiring managers tell me that this thing is valuable. And one of the parts of about being out of work that I just hate so much is that you have so little control. You
Mm.
know, once you send the resume out, it's like, I mean, it's like throwing a bottle off an ocean liner.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
just That's what it feels like, or it's like sending a radio signal into a black hole. It's like nothing ever comes out.
Yeah.
But if you have another tool, at least it makes you feel like you've got a little extra control in the situation, that there's, one little extra chance that you can do something to positively impact your chances.
I always like to ask my guests this question, and you've had a lot of experience. If you could go back and speak to yourself at 17 years of age, what words of wisdom would you give Rex at 17 years of age today?
Boy, man, at 17, I suppose like any, teenage boy, I thought I was absolutely bulletproof, you know,
We all did.
you know, that I was bulletproof, that I was that, and I knew everything. And I didn't need really anybody, kind of thing. I mean, even though I had been accepting the help and all of that kind of stuff, I mean, I was a regular teenage boy. What I would tell myself um, is truly be nice to everybody all the time, um, and and do it kindly and humbly. Approach life kindly and humbly, because first of all, you make a lot more friends that way, um, and importantly, because you're making friends, you're not making enemies. Um,
Yeah.
the older you get, the smaller the world gets. And you run into people that you never think you're going to run into again. And it sure is a whole lot easier running into those people and having them smile when they see you, as opposed to giving you one of these glances and then turning around and walking the other
Run away.
way. Yeah. It makes life so much easier being nice to everybody. And you never know um, how being kind to somebody is going to
Yeah.
impact them, number one, but how it might impact you later. And certainly as a 17-year-old, you're not looking very far down the road.
No.
But that would certainly be the advice that I give myself then.
Rex, hey, thank you so much for being on 5 to 10 in the D. I'm really excited to see my career snapshot take off, and anything we can do to help. I'm here to help you, man.
Uh, Thank you for having me on.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed meeting Rex Roy as much as I enjoyed speaking with him. So look, if you're looking for work and you need to improve your chances of getting noticed, add my career snapshot with your resume. You won't be disappointed. It's a quick reading, one-page supplement that brilliantly quantifies and graphically represents your greatest academic, career, business, and even sports achievements with numbers and brief captions. So get noticed, get hired. Learn more at mycareersnapshot.com. Thanks for watching 5 to 10 in the D. I'm John Irvine. Until next time, take care.